So I applied to come on this research expedition and to be part of this trip because I'm a geographer, a biologist and an explorer, and the Arctic's a region that I've always been fascinated in. There's been really very little research done on adventure tourism in the Arctic, and that was something that I really wanted to be part of.
Any adventuring that I can do through my work is very rewarding personally, and I mean it's always been a dream of mine to come here, but it's almost like a place that was never on my list until the opportunity came up.
I'm a storyteller for young children, and I think it's important that they learn about as many cultures as they can.
Travel's a passion with me, and I have traveled to a lot of places, but never to the north.
I think some people certainly are looking for interaction with Inuit people or people of the North in general. I think that everyone winds up being moved by meeting people here. And I think lots of people come to the Arctic not really thinking necessarily about going to an Inuit homeland, but I don't think you can leave here without realizing that and being moved by it.
I think the only one was the typical one where it's just the land for the polar bears. And I knew there was a lot more to it than that, so that's part of why I came. And so far, I've been amazed. I've seen pictures of the houses, you know, the bright colors and on the hillsides, but to see that in person is just really quite amazing.
Exploring some of the villages was probably the best experience that I've had so far in Greenland. And it's this moment when you're walking around some of these villages where the way of life is so different to what else you've seen. And you get this feeling, it's like, this is why I'm here, this is why I'm in the Arctic.
I really enjoyed Greenland. I thought it was such an interesting mix between the old traditional culture that we saw in the very small village that we were in, and then the much more modern, dynamic, bustling, busy place in Nuuk. I thought it was fascinating.
And just to see modern life there was pretty interesting. I mean, when you think of Inuit culture, you think of these kind of misconceptions of like just people seal hunting and living in igloos, but you don't find that in Nuuk. It's very modern, and you just see how the culture is evolving and changing with the modern times, which is really interesting.
I'm just happy because this is home, and it just makes you feel happy knowing your neighbors. If you're going through a hard time, they can be there for you. You got all your friends and family because it's a small town. Everyone knows everyone, and everyone's just happy with everything, I guess.
Their outpouring of welcome to us was quite amazing and heartwarming. I think they really went above and beyond to make us feel welcome here. And then the great spirit of the soccer game, which between the ship and people and the local people, and everyone got so into that it was really heartwarming, I thought.
Ready! Why? Of course! You guys already won for the last 10 years.
Oh, we're gonna win for another 10 more years. Maybe you guys will get lucky one day if you guys got like professional soccer players.
We're gonna do a group picture.
It's your birthday?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's my birthday too.
Oh, happy birthday, man.
He's actually my brother.
Oh, okay. How old are you today? 23. Oh, 23. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, very, very nice to meet you. Very sweet. Oh, come visit Europe one day. Let me know whenever you do.
Once you come here and you start chatting with the locals, you realize that there are quite a few similarities, and those stand out to you more. chatting with a few of the teenagers in the town, I thought that we'd have a lot less in common, but I realized that they had like some of the same apps on their phone. They enjoyed taking selfies as much as I did. They spent their summers, they said that they spent their summers in Ottawa and Montreal often because they liked to go to the city and go shopping. So you start to talk about those similarities and realize that we're not so different after all.
Okay. I think I asked everything that I wanted to ask. Do you think that there's any...
I think I need to say something about, this is a lot more difficult for me to answer questions on than previous stuff, because previously I'm talking about stuff that I understand fully and like I research and like I have degrees in, etc. This is a bit different, and I want to make sure that I think I should say something about being a visitor, like learning a bit, not being an expert by any extent of imagination, but it's really good to like get an opening on a different world. So one of the things that I find whenever you visit a community anywhere around the world is that you actually learn a lot from the kids and getting their perspective of children in whatever community it is. And sometimes stopping and playing with the children is actually a really, really good way to find out a lot about the community that you're in. So when we were visiting both Kimmeroot and Cape Dorset, it was really fun to play with the children there. Whether that's playing football in Kimmeroot or playing tag or it in Cape Dorset. And what was very different between the two is that Kimmeroot was a much more organised setting. Everyone, all of the passengers, all of the staff aboard the ship that went on shore in Kimmeroot joined in, either as cheerleaders or supporters for the football team or as actual players. And the whole village turned out both to play and to support. Whereas playing with the children in Cape Dorset was very different. It was a case of just a pick-up game, joining in with some of the children there. And that creates a very, very different environment, but also the interaction was very different. The amount of enthusiasm that we saw in Kimmeroot wasn't necessarily there in Cape Dorset in terms of play, but the minute that you get involved with the children and you start playing with them, you could just see on their faces, like children everywhere, children just love play, and I really enjoy it personally too. And so it was a lot of fun, but it was very different. The interaction was very different, and that was partially due to the setting we were in.
And I bought a bear made out of soapstone, and it was carved by a boy named Tommy Ezekiel, who's 17 years old. So I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of people start pretty young here with their carvings.
But we live in about 21,000 people in here, and I just came with the springtime from Ottawa, almost 2 years, a year and a half, and in the spring I have to join and talk to my inner people, and we have more free country food and everything peaceful. You can see more color in town and quiet. Thank you. Nakomi.
I guess it's always interesting for me to go back to Cape Dorset and see a place that it was really built by art, by Inuit art. There are more artists living from their art. By that I don't mean like Sunday painters or what have you, but people who really live from their art. There are more artists per capita in Cape Dorset than I believe anywhere else in the world.
In this day that we live into an economical dependency on cash economy, tourists bring dollars, and they bring money and they buy our crafts. They add to our economy, which there's not too many Inuit today anywhere in the world. I wouldn't imagine that lives solely off of the land. You have to have money to live. You have to buy gas, you have to buy fuel, you have to buy snowmobiles, bullets for your guns. In that respect, yes, tourism they do add to the cash economy of the north, whether it's purchasing crafts or anything along that nature. They leave money behind, and it's a benefit to all Inuit.
we need more money. Prices, everything's high in here, and I don't know. The bent is only low money, because sometimes when we're working hard, not enough to buy some gas, stays, or all those stuff. Groceries are high, and like the town stuff is a very good, cheap to buy, but in here it's a double price.
What do you think of Cape Dorset?
Oh, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I did not expect all the rockiness,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. It's just amazing. All the buildings, the what happened with the school.
Mm-hmm. It burned down, right?
Yeah, it was. The fire was set by 3 teenage boys. Seeing all the artisans, the carvers. We just
Mhm.
saw a print being made.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful thing.
Actually, the thing that I really enjoyed the most was just hanging out and chatting to different members of the community. It was that time talking about football teams, about One Direction, about life in the UK. It was those small interactions which I enjoyed the most, and being up here and visiting the communities in the far north, I'm aware that I'm very new to this. This is the first time that I've been to Arctic Canada and to Greenland. Everyone I've met has taught me something new, something valuable.
Unbelievable. I came with really no expectations because I've never been here, and what I've seen and heard and learned is just remarkable. It'll take me a while to process it all.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, amazing. It's a different world up here.
I found them a much more joyful, happy people than my expectation of that. I think that's because of the media having focused so much on the young people's suicides, and they don't give you the full background of the close-knit family ties, the respect that they have for the land, respect for their elders. I think I can be now more of an ambassador for informing other people about their lifestyle and their goals, and you know, the pride that they have in themselves.
I think an appreciation of the Arctic culture and how much there is up here and how little we know about it in the south, and we sort of dismiss it as a vast land of white that there's not, and because there's so few people up here, we don't have a sense of how much is going on up here and how much artwork and wonderful imagination these people have, their wonderful sense of humor, and I will pay a lot more attention to what is happening in the Arctic from now on.
In the beginning, I didn't know if I was going to focus it so much on the Inuit culture. I was thinking more wildlife and landscapes and hiking. And then it was when we went to the communities, I started realizing that there were so many stories to be told there. And that changed to become the focus. And just how this trip can provide the opportunity for people to completely have their minds changed about what Inuit culture means and how it influences their work and their lives in general. And even when they go back home to Canada or the United States or wherever they're from, how they're going to continue to stay connected and continue to think about people up here in the north.
It's interesting to ascertain what the impacts the trip had on me were. I'm very cautious of using this commonly thrown around phrase, life-changing. Life-changing implies that things were considerably different beforehand. And like most of the passengers, I already went with a high level of interest in the region, a high level of interest in lots of the issues affecting the region, and a high motivation for worldwide environmental and conservation issues. What perhaps did have a lasting effect and a lasting impact on me were building those human connections. being in some of those communities and having that connection, then getting asked at the end, well, you're coming back next year.
Nice to meet you.
And to have to turn around and say, well, maybe, if I can. It was very, very difficult. In a way I didn't really expect it to be. But I might be back. And now I'm absolutely determined to try and do something to help the region and to do that which I can, because there's a tremendous amount of human potential that we can capitalize on together to protect what is a very, very important part of the world and has some amazing human communities there in the face of changing environments, changing conditions and a changing climate.